Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Gibbon podcast. We are recording this in July. It's another abysmal day. I think we're in a yellow weather warning and there is floods all around us. But anyway, I thought it was about time that we got the podcast with Faye Smith out. We've just had the Scoon Game Fair. It was a really successful fair actually. It seemed to be very popular. Lots of people, certainly well laid out and organised. Stands looking good. Just people enjoying themselves, to be honest. Even the weather played ball. It was supposed to be torrential rain on the Saturday. We had a heavy shower, very heavy shower, but other than that, the sun was out for all of it. So yeah, just a really good time. Great to catch up with people. We managed to record an actual couple of podcasts on the day as well, so watch out for those in the near future. Just a quick recap on what's happening at the moment. Obviously, the old stag season has begun. The roebuck have seemed to put themselves into hiding. We were out the other day trying to find a few of those, and they're definitely more elusive than they have been. But that's just the way the summer is. The cover's really tall. We've got grass in some parts that's up to your shoulders. So the hunting of a roebuck is pretty tricky at the minute. But yeah, the season's marching on. So is the weather. Let's hope that the rain actually does subside at some point and that we get some more heat, because it'll be harvest time soon, and then the vermin control, and we'll be on that. We can finish off that roebuck season, and the rut should kick off as well. Anyway, let's get cracking into this recording with Faye. Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Gibbon podcast. Today on the show we have got Faye Smith. You may have seen her. She is the face of Seeland UK. She's also a gamekeeper, fox shooter and deer stalker. How you doing, Faye?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Very good. Thank you very much for sparing some time. I know you've been really busy. I think the last few days you've been drilling in game cover and stuff like that, haven't you?
I'm trying to get it in before the weather comes. Once we had a bit of a window, we had to go. So
it's usually the way. It's the same thing in farming and all the rest of it. I think I've managed to be lucky that it's raining tonight, so we've managed to get you on the podcast.
That's it, yeah.
So for everybody that doesn't know you, let's just sort of go back to your sort of beginnings. How did you get? My usual question to any guest is, how did you get into shooting? So tell us where it all started.
I've pretty much been dragged up shooting. My dad's used to have a shoot, and I just basically just loved it, and I just always wanted to be with my dad, so I just got dragged up shotgun shooting and stuff like that. And then I got into my rifle shooting for vermin control, for foxing and stuff. And then I'd probably say the last sort of 5-7 years I've just gone a bit mad on the deer.
So the deer stalking sort of something new for you then, is it?
Relatively new, yeah, I would say so, yeah. So
obviously there's always people ask lots of questions. It's one of those things. So as somebody that's new into deer stalking, how easy was it, or how hard was it for you to actually get into deer stalking?
It wasn't that difficult for me, because obviously with my upbringing, I shot deer and stalked deer quite a lot before I was really into it.
Okay.
Sort of thing. I was very lucky with my upbringing. I've been spoiled as I've grown up, I've always been out shooting shotgun, shooting rifles and stuff like that. So I have shot a fair few deer before I was actually interested in shooting deer.
Okay.
And I've just got a lot of friends and a lot of gamekeeper friends and stuff like that. And we all just used to just go out, and that's how I sort of got into it. But I'd probably say the best way for someone that's never got into it before would be either go on obviously a guided stalk, or go on a simulated day to begin with, just to get used to a rifle and everything first, and then go with a guide, and then obviously get your first deer.
Yeah, because that obviously you do a bit of work with Paul Childerley, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and he's got his simulated stalking days.
Yeah.
Do you find you get a lot of novices come on those?
It varies, because he can work it for experienced rifle shooters and complete beginners. So it can literally, you can be shooting like quite close targets, or he can like chuck it out to stupid ranges over where he is, and see what people are made of.
Fair enough. No, I literally just got off the phone with a chap now who's been stalking not for very long, and his biggest confidence issue was being able to shoot over 100 meters. So he's kind of limited himself at the moment. I went, oh, no problem. If you come up and see me, I can throw you out to 500 if you want. And then he went, oh, but I shoot at 243. It's like, well, we'll stick to 300. That'll do.
Yeah. Yeah.
We won't try and push it too far.
I don't shoot long ranges. You know, foxing's a bit different, but with deer, I think it's all a mind game. I think you get in your own head about stuff. I don't like pushing it too far because I want to make sure that I have a humane dispatch sort of thing with deer shooting. So I don't push myself too far with the distances with deer. But with foxes, I'd probably chuck a little bit further just because, get the opportunity, you've got to take it.
Well, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? There's two schools of thought on the deer stalking community. You see it on all the social media feeds. You've got the guys that say, I like to get in close and stalk a deer. Now, I like to get in close if I'm shooting roe. I'd like to be sub 100 meters because there's more to study about the deer, and it's a good target and it's nice to shoot. But you get others that are like, oh, I shoot them at 300 meters. It's like, well, it's not really stalking, is it, at that point?
Mm. Yeah, but then, do you shoot open sights then? Because that's what a lot of people would say. Open sights are, a proper stalker as an open sights person,
Well, a problem is I can't get my musket actually up to the speed for Scottish law. I have a 50 caliber musket, black powder, and if only I could, you can't, because physically you can't get black powder to go fast enough. It doesn't fall into the criteria of the Scottish requirements, because Scottish requirements work on muzzle energy and muzzle velocity. It's nothing to do with caliber size. But you can't actually get the 50 caliber ball. I've tried. I've rammed as much powder down the muzzle as possible. You get a hell of a thump out of it, but it still doesn't go fast enough through the chrono, because that would be the ultimate, to go out and do it how the old timers did it.
Yeah.
At sort of 50 to 60 yards with a muzzle loader. It would be fantastic. So, yeah. But then I suppose we have the other side of it, which is, you talk about not wanting to shoot them too far, but then I suppose anybody that comes up to shoot in Scotland, you're going to be shooting anywhere between 150 and 200 minimum.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a, I suppose it's one of those things. It's a difficult place to say, oh, I only shoot sub 100 meters on deer. But I suppose you're only, what species have you got down where you are?
I've got muntjac, Chinese, and fallow.
And what's probably your favourite to stalk out of those three?
Muntjac.
Yeah? Why is that?
Yeah. They're just a lot more difficult, I think. Chinese, for a first timer, Chinese is probably your best bet, because you've got a lot more chance to actually, you go out stalking, they basically will stand for you. And, it's a lot easier. They're probably the easiest deer to stalk, obviously depending on the weather and stuff, because obviously we have gone out before and failed in our mission, so to speak. But I would say Chinese wards deer for a beginner is probably your best first deer species to go for. And I've obviously shot a fair few of them, so it's you sort of get to that point where muntjac are a little bit more, you've got to go through the wood, and you find them, and you can use your thermals and stuff like that as well, or you wait and you cool them and they come out and they only give you like a little bit of, they give you a little show and that's it, and then they're gone again. Where a Chinese or a fallow pretty much stand there for you, and it's just, it's a little bit more, what's the word, technique to it, I think.
I would agree with you on that, definitely. I lived in Leicestershire for 18 years and barely, I never shot a muntjac down there. And now every time I go and visit friends, I spend more time in the woods trying to get muntjac. Yeah. And it's one of those deer that they're very flitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of just appear. And when they do appear, sometimes the shot, you have to be right on them. It's like, I'm gonna have to neck shoot that, or I'm gonna it just like sticks its head round the corner of a tree and looks at you. It's like, there's a tree in the way, kind of thing.
It doesn't always present itself very easily. And like when I've taken obviously clients out stalking, and that you, in the morning we go for a Chinese water deer, and it's great because you've got plenty of time. You show them, and they have plenty of time to feel comfortable to pull the trigger and everything like that. And then in the evening we'll go for a muntjac, and they think they've got the same amount of time, and you really don't. Yeah. I'm like, if I see one and you've got a good shot, you've got to take it, and you've got to take it straight away. And they sort of don't believe you until they see it and it's just gone. They're like, what's that? And I was like, that was the muntjac you were supposed to shoot, sort of thing. But
I think that's one of the things, isn't it? Yeah, a lot of new stalkers, unless they're seasoned to it, they struggle with the amount of time they've actually got to squeeze the trigger and take that shot. So everything has to be perfect. And I suppose it's everybody would do it. You spend that time thinking about it and you want to make sure it's perfect. But sometimes it's like with a fox, you just don't have that time. It sticks its head up, it sits for a second. It's like, that's it, bang, down it goes.
Well, that's it. And also, like, obviously, with guiding that, you want to make sure you never pressurise someone. That's the first thing I always say to someone. If you're not comfortable with a shot, don't take it. We'll get another opportunity. It's one of those things. Even if I'm going, take it. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. Because at the end of the day, you're the one with that rifle in your hand. And, if you don't feel safe or comfortable, then don't do it.
It's so difficult to make sure that you don't... You're standing there waiting for them to take that shot, and you're desperately trying not to like either breathe difficultly or go hurry up kind of thing. Take it now, pull the trigger. I was watching Clarkson's Farm with the
oh my god, that drove me insane.
And it's like you can take the shot. It's a good shot, take the shot. And it's just like, how many, we've all been there been there with a guest, and it's like, I can't see it, and it's just like, I could have shot that 4 times at least. And I suppose there's editing in there anyway, but you just know it's the classic. You're guiding somebody, and I've had it up on the hill.
They get buck fever as well. I've had like after someone's taken their first deer, and I've had like grown men cry, because it's such an emotional thing to take, obviously, a life, but at the same time, like, I think because obviously I've been brought up with it. It's sort of I've become not numb to it, but like it sort of, when I see like a fully grown man sort of get emotional about it, it actually makes me think, oh, hang on a minute, this is actually quite a big thing that we've just done.
Well, I think for a lot of people, when it's their first deer and things like that, I've seen it a lot. I'm glad they have emotion, because if they stood there stone cold, let's go and get the next one, it's just like, we're not. I don't really want to take you for another one, because actually you're not showing respect for the animal. But if there is that bit of emotion, it's like, okay, let's talk about it. We'll walk 100%. Back, we'll pick that one up, and that they actually respect what they've done. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree.
But having people, you probably see it. So you get there's I've always said to people, there's different emotions you see. Men get buck fever, and ladies are pretty cool and calm until they pull the trigger. And then once it's over, then the emotion flows.
Yeah, do you know, I still get after I shoot something, shoot a fox, or shoot a deer, I still get like the adrenaline. I get like, sometimes you get like a little bit of a shake, and you think, what's going on? Like, because you think, hang on a minute, like, I shouldn't be getting this rush anymore, because obviously I've shot a few. You think you'd sort of get used to it, but you still get that sort of, oh god, especially after the decent fox.
It's definitely one of those things that we've said it quite a lot, and everybody's like, oh, what, it can't be, but it is. Men seem to get buck fever, the adrenaline pumps, and you hear them, the breathing goes and all the rest of it, but most of the time the women are just absolutely calm behind the rifle. They look at it, squeeze the trigger, then then the adrenaline starts to flow, and it's always bizarre, but it's great, because it means that you know that if you've got a lady behind the rifle and you say shoot it there, bang, it falls over. When you've got a bloke, it's like, oh, I can do it, oh, you've missed. So just one of those things as being a guide. So do you enjoy guiding?
I do, I do. I really do. It's a weird one, because obviously when you're guiding, you think, especially when you see something quite spectacular. But at the same time, you enjoy it a little bit more when you actually take someone out and they obviously get it instead of you. I don't know, it's a weird feeling, like you feel like you're part of it still. But I know it's not your deer, but like at the same time, like you're going to be in the memory of their whole stalk and that still. So like it gives you like the same sort of adrenaline rush as soon as you shoot one. As soon as like someone shoots their first deer with me and that, I'm like jumping up and down for joy. Like they think, oh, like I get more excited than them sometimes because it's just like, yes, I'm just so happy that it's, do you know what I mean? They've managed to do it. They've done it safe. They've done it clean. They've done it everything textbook. I just get so excited, and it's like, it's pretty sad really, but I can't help it.
No, I can completely agree with you on that one. I think as a guide, we work really hard, and I think you're pretty wired trying to get the client into a deer. You're hoping to see a deer. That's the biggest thing. And I think that when you finally get them in there and it all goes right, it's almost like you feel like the pressure lifts and your work is done. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, but even as well, like when I go out and take people out, I don't actually. You have the pressure of trying to get the animal that you're after, obviously, but at the same time, if you're unsuccessful, it's stalking at the end of the day, and everybody that goes stalking sort of respects the fact that you're not always going to get, what you're after. You're not always going to get that deer. You're not always going to see everything you need to see. Sometimes the weather, it's everything that happens. But then, like, if you go on obviously, because I'm a gamekeeper as well, you run a pheasant and partridge day, and someone pays for that. They expect to see spectacular birds and have this amazing day put on for them. And sometimes it's I find it a lot more stressful because they expect more. But like when you take someone out guiding for deer, it's like, I don't know, they're just happy to be out.
I think that's the thing. Yeah, it's that whole thing. They're happy to be out there. They understand that it's a wild animal you're chasing. They kind of think, I think, as you say, the pheasant days, the keeper is expected to put on a good show because they've paid their money and they want the birds over the top of them.
100%. Yeah, I find it more stressful. 100%.
So that obviously we can pull out the deer stalk in a minute, and you just touched on that you're a gamekeeper, so you obviously have your own shoot now. So I was a gamekeeper down the road for 9-10 seasons, and then last year I was actually coming out of the gamekeeping show and I was going to go straight into deer. I was going to focus on deer because I've gone mad on deer. That was it. No more pheasants. I've had enough of pheasants. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, right, deer's more fun, going for the deer. And then this opportunity last season turned up of saying, do you want to run your own shoot? And I was like, oh, yeah, I could still do a bit. Obviously, I'll do a bit of guiding for Paul and that. So I still do a bit of deer and do this and do that. And then I basically just ran with it. And now, I'm running a shoot. So I've just done a 180 turn from a 180 turn sort of thing. I was going to say, nothing like stress being a pheasant keeper, is it? It's the only bird you can actually get hold of that only wants to kill itself. So it's your job to keep it alive.
Honestly. It is so stressful, yeah. It is so stressful. I don't know why I do it. I reckon if I got a decent, job offer of, doing deer, I'd probably just go and do that because it would be a lot less stressful.
Well, at least with deer, you don't have to really do anything apart from hope that they're wet. You just need to know where they are and go and shoot them. Whereas pheasants, it's like you're forever either trying to keep them in your land, make sure that they're not being taken by either some ground predator or something like that, or they're killing themselves just because they just decide to kill themselves. They're
like the sheep, the birds of was it the sheep of the birds or something like that, isn't they? They just want to die.
That's it. So with your pheasants, do you take them in as day olds, or do you get them as like 14-week-old poults, or how do you do it?
So it's the first year I haven't reared. So I always reared a few at my old place just because I enjoy doing it, which a lot of gamekeepers would say that I was mad because it is a lot of work. But this year is the first year I haven't reared. So I normally get in so many day olds, and then I'll get my pheasants at sort of 7-week-olds, and then my partridges at 14 weeks old. Okay. I've never reared partridges. I've only ever reared pheasants. But yeah, I sort of miss it, to be fair, but I just didn't have enough time this year to be able to rear. So yeah, had to give that one up this year.
I was going to say, I do think the year's flying by. I can't believe, well, it's June, isn't it? In a couple of days' time. And it's just like, where has the start of the year gone? It has just disappeared so quickly.
It has.
Because, we've got pheasants coming.
For us.
Well, yeah, don't say that, because it is only literally another month and a half, and the stags are back in. Okay, it's July; they'll all be in velvet. But yeah, literally, it felt like we just finished on the hill, and all of a sudden it starts again.
Yeah.
So no, it is. It's one of those mental times here. But so, have you got many days booked, or is that just is it a small shoot? Is it a syndicate or something like that you do?
Oh no, yeah. So I'm planning on doing about 17 days this year. And then we're going to it'll be 150 bird days to 200 birds. Nice. So it's not a massive shoot, but it's just a nice sort of, I don't know, it's a nice sort of farm shoot, I would say. You know, we've got a lot of characters that come beating and stuff, and a lot of guns. And I've sort of have syndicated some of the days this year, which, you know, there's been people for years have been at this shoot. So we've kept them going because they love the shoot so much. And then obviously I've got a few days still available that I need to sell. But it's quite stressful because obviously I've got to get everything in to pay for everything.
I was going to say 17 days at 150 bird days. It's that's not a small shoot at the end of the day. That's a fair size.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest that I can probably go for the ground that I've got. But
that's good.
Yeah.
What's your topography like on there? Is it are you mostly flat farmland, or have you actually got some fairly good areas to get birds off the ground?
Yeah, see, so Bedfordshire it's not exactly the most hillier places in Bedfordshire, but it actually does show quite good birds, I think, because there is quite good topography in Bedfordshire. I know it's not like Cambridgeshire where it's completely flat. You only need a tiny bit of a sort of a rolling hill. I'd say we've got rolling hills. We haven't got cliffs or anything like that, but we've got like rolling hills. And you only need to be sort of a little bit of a rolling hill and they're gone. Like we've had on one of our drives last year, it was the first time I sort of tried to do it. And I called it pylons because obviously there was pylons in the drive and the partridges were going over the top of them and the guns were in a dip. So they were, you know, so for Bedfordshire, that's pretty impressive, really good birds.
Yeah. And I suppose if you've got a good team of beaters out there and you can get flaggers in at the right places, it obviously does help get the birds get some height. But if you can get partridge up and flying, you're obviously doing a good job.
Yeah, no, my beating team they are really good, and you know you can get a bit stressed at times on a shoot day. I make sure I'm always polite. And I get very excited, especially when things go right. You know, I start shouting and stuff where, you know, when a bird goes amazingly and stuff like that. And I find they all respect me. You know, being a woman in this industry and being quite young, they still respect the fact that I sort of know enough what I'm doing. So they do listen to me. And if they don't, I just keep repeating their name until they do listen to me. I speak on the radio quite a lot, you know. I think a lot of beaters turn it down because I do speak quite a lot on the radio.
But that's really good. And you literally took the question out of that I was going to ask you is like, do you find it difficult being a young woman as a head keeper? Because obviously you'll have old boys on there in their 60s and 70s that are beating for you, and they don't like taking orders even from anybody. They've done it that long and that's the way they've done it.
I've done it this way, and I've always stood on this hedge here, and that's that. And you think, well, we're not doing it that way anymore, you know. But yeah, you always get the odd person, but you know, it's expected. You know, I think it's more of the fact of some people think they know better. And sometimes people do. And, you know, if someone's got a suggestion, I'm always open to it. I'm always, you know, I don't always think that I know everything. So if someone says, oh, you know, you're losing birds out of this side or something like that, I'd rather them tell me than them to be scared to tell me, because then we can get it sorted and we can get the drive going right. And I have had, when I've been a gun on a shoot day, I've had the old fellas like sort of talk down to me a little bit. I was on a local shoot where I am, and it was an old farmer, and he goes, oh, so what do you do and all this lot? He's a really, really posh bloke. And I said, oh, I'm actually a gamekeeper for next door. And they went, oh, well, girls can't be gamekeepers. I said, oh. I said, well, no, girls can't be gamekeepers. I said, oh, okay. And I sort of just brushed it over. I pulled a peg next to him, didn't I? So, do you know what? And he was shooting some of these birds, and I wouldn't even put my gun up to them, sort of thing. And this beautiful bird come over, and he went bang, bang, and I shot it behind him. I said, well, girls can't be gamekeepers, but they can shoot better than old men. And it just literally, after that point, then we just got on so well. And, because you've got to have that sort of bit of a banter. You've got to have banter, especially with, like, the older sort of generation, because I think the older generation love it as well. That the youngsters do come in and do sort of get into the sport, because without us, the sport is non-existent.
Totally, 100%. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think there is a new generation, but there's not enough coming into it to actually sustain it at the moment. And I think that's going to be potentially what we're going to see in the future. It's young kids nowadays are all sat on their phones or doing something else, and you don't see them as much in the beating line, or like you would have been dragged out to go shooting. And probably
I never took a sick day. Honestly, it wasn't shooting pains at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were out shooting all the time, and probably there drenched, and you just loved it. And but
100%.
Nowadays kids are just like, oh, it's raining, I better stay indoors and watch TV or play computer games. It's it's a tricky one, really. So we'll come back to the shooting in a minute, because obviously a lot of people will now see that you're appearing all over the place in adverts and in magazines. So you are basically the face of Seeland UK. You're our representative for ladies' clothing made by Seeland. How did that come about?
So it actually happened. So Seeland had a day at Paul's. They done it was a couple of days where I think Seeland brought over some ambassadors and some people that, like, just to say thank you for using their brand and stuff like that. And they done it at Beckering's, and they went Chinese, obviously, after Chinese and Muntjac. And obviously I was one of the guides. So I just got to chatting with them, really. And from there, I don't know, I was very lucky. It was the right place, right time sort of, scenario.
Yeah.
And I just got to chatting to obviously the right person, and we got on, and he said, do you fancy doing it? And I was like, yeah, all right. So and we went from there. So I was very, very lucky where I was. Yeah.
Because obviously it's quite, how do you, here we go, $1 million question. You got to be careful how you answer this. How do you find the brand? How do you find the product?
So I think Seeland is actually quite a good product for their price range. Because obviously you're Harkeela, aren't you? And Harkeela and Seeland.
I'm not really officially Harkeela. I like to support the brand. Hockey.
Yeah,
I do. I've basically, I was looking at it the other day. I think my original Harkeela Pro Hunter trousers are getting on now for 14 years old. So if you've got a pair of stalking trousers that last that long, that means I've always looked after the brand and basically said I'll support it. So I started off with Seeland because for beating, they used to do like a beater's trouser, which like had a welly cover and all the rest of it. So I started with that, and I tried to use them for stalking, but found they were too noisy. So, but you were saying for the price point, you think that Seeland's
point for Seeland, I think it's a good, it's a good product. It's a sister company of Harkeela, isn't it? So but it's on more of a budget end for someone. So if someone's coming into it and sort of trying to find the ground, and some beaters that obviously you're out there beating, you're not going out there beating to be making money, because you don't get paid very well to go beating for the day. You do it because you enjoy it, and you're probably retired and stuff like that. So it's a good I'd say it's a good budget sort of outdoor clothing, I would say. Yeah.
There's some, actually, to be honest, I help out a friend at Scoon Game Fair, and he's like a Harkeela and Seeland sales. He's he's a tractor showroom, but he sells the clothing, and some of the Seeland products I think are actually, they look, in some cases they come out better than what I'd buy for Harkeela, to be honest. I look at it and go, that's really good.
So Seeland are bringing out, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but Seeland are bringing out a new tweed, and
okay,
and it is nicer than the Harkeela tweed, hands down. It honestly, for me, it's like traditional sort of heritage. It's like timeless, so you could get away with wearing it for a couple of years, and I honestly think that will blow Harkeela out the door with that tweed. I honestly do.
It's quite funny, but when I've got my tweed on, I tagged Harkeela in it because I was actually trying to tag him about the coat I was wearing underneath.
Yeah.
And they obviously decided that my tweed looks very similar to theirs. Now, I've had mine for years. And they were like, oh, he's wearing our products. Here's all the products. It's like, no, it's not at all. It's my own cut. This is it. But hey, I think it's kind of good. But it's one of those things, I suppose, in the shooting community. People look at it and they go, do I really want like a H or an S printed on the back of my tweed suit? Because it is expensive. It really is, compared to other quality product. You can almost have your own tweed custom made to your fit, and it still comes in cheaper in some cases, depending on where you get your cloth from, than buying something off the shelf with a name on it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It depends who your tailor is. I was very lucky and had a very old boy, and it was like, do you want Gore-Tex in that? Yeah, go on then. Oh, it's an extra 20 quid for Gore-Tex in your breeks. I'm like, cool, that'll do.
That would do, yeah.
They are the hottest breeks in the world. You just don't wear them when it's sunny, because you literally sweat.
You wouldn't want to wear it in Bedfordshire then, would you? Let's be honest. It's good for the Highlands, but not for down south.
Exactly. It's I came to a shoot down in where was I? Staffordshire direction, and I was like, I'm in the wrong kit here. It's heavyweight tweed, and I'm absolutely sweating. But we've had bizarre weather over the last few years. Like been out shooting one weekend, it's bright sunshine and boiling, and then I think I've put videos up the next week, it's absolute blizzard. And you don't, what do you do? You have to find a product that fits in there for everything, don't you, really?
Yeah.
So do you use the Seeland kit and all the rest of it when you're out stalking, or is it purely just for like the pheasant days, or what's your main go-to with it now?
I use pretty much Seeland for everything now, for day-to-day sort of gamekeeping and stuff like that. And then for when we go out stalking, I use the trousers and the coats and stuff like that. And then obviously on shoot days, hopefully the new tweed. I don't know if I was allowed to talk about it, but hopefully I'll have that for this season coming.
Well, before we put the podcast out, we'll make sure that you're allowed to talk about it. We'll message Harkeela UK or Seeland UK even, and we'll just find out whether or not it's allowed. And if we have to edit it, we'll remove that bit. So here's the $1 million question: as a keeper, and it's one of those things that you see it on social media all the time. Boots. What boots do you use?
I've gone through a lot of boots. I think Mendel's used to be good. Now I don't think they're any good at all. You know, if they last you a month, you're lucky with Mendel's. I've had lowers. They've been quite a good boot, but you know, after the bird flu, obviously because we had to dip our boots a lot, it destroyed them. So now they leak. I'm currently wearing Harkeela boots.
Okay.
But I think Crispies, they're the ones to get now.
Well, did you know that the Harkeela boots are made in the Crispy factory?
Are they really?
Harkeela and Crispy boots are basically it's same factory.
Oh wow. Didn't know that.
There you go. That's why when you put your Harkeela boots on, they felt like the slippers of the hill, as everybody calls them.
Yeah, they are comfortable. They're a lightweight boot. The Harkeela ones are pretty lightweight.
Yeah. So are you on the Harkila? Is it the Ridge or something like that? Are they the tall boot or the short
The
boot?
tall ones, they're the taller ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the tallest boot you can get, pretty much. That's the boots I like to wear.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I suppose I'm just used to just always tall lace up boots, but
Mm.
they obviously do make a lower boot for guys that are lowland stalking. But I think a tall boot just seems to give you better ankle support.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I couldn't
So
wear
have you?
wellies.
No, yeah, I used to
I
wear
used to,
wellies, and
and then as soon as I got a pair of boots, that was it. I was like, no, I'll put wellies on when I go feeding and that in the morning because I can't be bothered to lace my boots up. But then I don't do a lot, do I? I'm sitting in a motor, so.
you'll have to get those U-turn twist boots that you literally
Oh
just
yeah,
wind them up, and they see that they're my, like, in the morning, take the dogs out, slip your feet into those, quick twist, and away you
yeah,
go. They're
yeah.
what you need. You do get funny looks at the airport though after you've gone through security and you're sat there twiddling your boots. Everybody's like, "What's he doing?" So obviously we're now into the season. You'll be having, you've probably got your birds already, I take it. Are they in?
No, I haven't got them just yet. No, I haven't got them just yet because obviously I would have had them if I was rearing because I would have had them
Yep.
as day olds. Majority of people are getting sort of day olds this week to next week would be the sort of the prime time for day old chicks. But I'll be getting my birds sort of second, third week in July. My
So
pheasants.
when do you start? When does your pheasant season start? Are you an early starter or do you
October,
start a
yeah.
bit?
We start in October with pheasants, but I've actually put some days in September for the partridge days and see how that goes.
So how are you going to juggle, obviously, pheasant days and then the Chinese water deer come back into season and everything?
Luckily, I have a very good boyfriend that would go feeding for me.
Very
Hopefully.
well, you're organised there then.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because that's one of the worst things, especially as the days are still, I think it's quite light. And if you're going out after the Chinese water deer, you'll be out early mornings, won't you,
Yeah,
really?
well, obviously the chinks won't come in till November, so
Oh, is
we're
it
all right
November?
with that. Yeah, November the chinks come in, but
See, that's
obviously
why
you've
I've
got
never managed to get down south to get one, because every time
yeah,
I try, it's November to March, and it's like I'm prime time in like the stags, the hinds,
yeah, of
roe.
course.
It never seems to work. I think this year, I keep saying it, I think I've said it on 3 podcasts, but this year I am coming down and I will get myself a Chinese water deer. It's the
Have you
last
not
one to
had
tick
one
off the
yet?
box.
Oh,
Nope.
really?
Yeah.
I've done my UK6. My last
Yeah.
one was Seeker, and I went down to Dorset for a Seeker,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
luckily I got stag. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, fantastic. So was
Mm,
that obviously Seeker down there? I don't know what Dorset's like to stalk Seeker. My Seeker was taken in Ireland.
yeah.
Um, what would you say that, let's go back to deer stalking then. What would you say has been your best deer to stalk?
I'd probably say, but the thing is, I haven't done a lot of Seeker stalking, so I'd probably have to say Seeker. I would probably have
Yeah,
to say that.
I think everybody picks Seeker because it's just one of those things. They get the name the ghost of the forest because
Yeah,
literally there's nothing, and then it just appears. And you're like, where did that come
yeah,
from?
pretty much. It's in a way, it's like obviously, it's muntjac probably are a bit easier to stalk, but it reminds me of when I've went out stalking. That it reminded me of muntjac quite a lot.
Yes, apart from when it turns and looks at you and you think, God, this thing wants to kill me, kind of thing. Yeah, they've got those eyebrow, like sort of, it's that facial expression. They
That
just look
face,
down.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's like that thing just looks so mean and so
yeah.
miserable. And you can understand why the seeker it's a hardy beast, and it'll happily take on a red stag if it comes up against
Mm.
it.
Well, that's it.
They're
Yeah, like
mental.
I've seen, with Seeker, you can have a perfect shot placement, and they can just run and they can just go. With everything else, they just drop on the spot. But a Seeker doesn't matter where you hit it; it's going to run.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. And that's it's mental. They're powerhouses, and they're just built for it. But you
Yeah.
know that stalking them, it's like if you've seen the stag, the chances are there's a hind standing 10 yards to the side of
Mm.
you and she's watching you at the same time. And
Yeah.
it's such a tricky one, really. It's good fun, though.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to try and get down there again.
I think your next one, don't go to Dorset. You need to go up to the Highlands and go after a
Yeah,
proper
I need to go
Highland
up north.
seeker.
Yeah,
Yeah, not this flat
I need
land.
to get a proper red, really. I don't know if you can
Oh
class
well,
my red as a red, you see, because it wasn't a Scottish red, so I don't know if you can class it.
I think a red's a red, but it depends. Well, it depends where you got it from, really, because obviously you've got some fantastic reds in this country, down in places like Dartmoor direction,
Mm,
Exmoor and stuff like that. Some of the reds out there are truly outstanding looking
yeah.
species. But then you've got park reds as well, and you've got a lot of sort of the traditional big reds kicking around sort of the whole of the UK. If you
Mm.
want to come and kill yourself and chase yourself up and down a hill and think that you've really earned your deer, then you come after a Scottish red.
Yeah, you got to work for it, haven't you?
Oh yeah, you get some crazy fool like me dragging you up and down all the hills, going, "Yeah, that's the one I want you to shoot." And it's like, but we're miles from anywhere. Why would I shoot that? Oh, don't worry, that's the one.
Yeah.
And we haven't told you that there's a pony or an Argo going to come in and help you get it out, but we'll make you drag it for a bit to start with.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
But I think there's something. I think stalking the Highlands is, yeah, I think you really do earn that, and I can understand why lots of people want to come up to Scotland to actually
Mm.
experience it.
Yeah.
It's certainly it's one of those once in a lifetime opportunities for some people. But then I was looking at stalks in New Zealand and stuff like that, and it's like,
Mm.
yeah, I'd like to go there.
My old keeper mate that used to be like down the road from me, he actually is in New Zealand now, and he's a gamekeeper in New Zealand, and the stuff that he sort of photos and that he sends me is just unreal. It is just
You
unreal what he gets up
you
to.
get kind of jealous of what some of
100%
the
I'm jealous.
size,
Yeah.
some of the size of the beast that they can take out there, and you're just like, what? That's real? It's like, yep.
Yeah.
But then everything in New Zealand is an invasive species, so they all want it
Yeah.
shot, and that's it.
Well, that's
So
what they say. What do they say? They say that they actually come from Woburn. The deer
right.
in New Zealand actually come from Woburn Deer Park.
Oh,
That's
really?
the
Okay.
bloodline comes. The bloodline has come from Woburn Deer Park. Now, like running amok in New Zealand.
But
Yeah.
obviously it just goes to show, doesn't it? If you put I was talking about this with somebody else the other day. If you put a deer in the right place with the right nutrients and all the rest of it,
Mm.
it was about roebuck. The difference you can have is absolutely phenomenal.
Mm.
So if you've got lots of minerals in the ground and good food, you get these absolutely outstanding roebuck and red
Yeah.
deer. Whereas if they're hard life on the hill, you look at a Scottish red, it's a big bodied animal, but the antlers it produces they're not like you'd see a traditional park deer, like if you
Yeah.
went into Hyde Park or something like that. They're much more spindly, but the animal's body weight is massive. And it's amazing really when it all boils down to what the animal's actually feeding on, and is it nicking all your food out your pheasant feeders?
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Luckily, because I don't have fallow and that on my shoot. So I've got obviously the muntjac and the Chinese, but I haven't got a great deal of deer actually on my shoot. Around me,
Okay.
there's a few, but deer on mine sort of non-existent. They've been sort of wiped out a bit from poaching to obviously previous people, and I think it's more the fallow that do a lot of sort of damage to the feeders. Obviously, the muntjac have a bit of food, bit of grub out your feeders, but it's the fallow knock it over. Where a muntjac probably sometimes takes the lid off, so it's annoying, but it's not really like a big issue, so to speak.
Obviously, Chinese water deer, you could probably tell me a lot more about them because I don't really know that much. But do they actually cause damage to feeders, or are they just a grazing beast that just hangs around in fields?
Yeah, it's mainly grazing, really. Just basically sit out in the middle of the field. Yeah, they
Oh,
graze
right.
a lot.
Okay.
They probably will have a bit of a grub out of a feeder, but they're mainly sort of just, they'll graze out of it. I think the biggest issue with Chinese is actually when the crops are up and they're ready to harvest, the way that they lay down, and they never lay down in the same place. So that's what annoys the farmers the most, I think, because obviously they've done all the work, the crop's perfect, and then a deer will lay down there one day and then lay down there the other day, and it's massive little circles everywhere, and it's just knackering all the crop.
Right. So yeah, because Chinese water deer move around in sort of they're more of a herd mentality, aren't they? They kind of hang around together and cause problems that way.
Little groups. They're not like massive groups. So I'd say like fallow are more like herds and stuff like that. But like Chinese, they're not really, I don't think, supposed to be like in massive groups, in massive herds.
Okay.
They're just like little family groups. But obviously it depends on how many deer you've got. Sometimes they are quite a big herd.
I was going to say, because everything I've ever looked at for photos down your way, it's like there's a fair number of Chinese water deer kicking around that way.
Yeah.
It's not kind of the super herds of fallow, but it's definitely the numbers of Chinese water deer seem to be spreading as well. That was what they were saying.
They are, yeah, they are, definitely. There is a fair few around here in Norfolk, I'd say.
So obviously with all of that going on, is there any other companies you do stuff for? I think I've seen you post stuff about ATN. Are you affiliated with them or something like that?
Yeah. So I'm ambassador for ATN. I'm an ambassador for ATN as well. Can't get my words out. So I do a bit for them. And Seeland, and hopefully a nice rifle company will give me a shout one day. But for now, that's it.
So well, there we go. You've moved us on quite nicely to that. So. Everybody wants to know what you shoot, what rifle, what make, what model of what brand do you use? So
majority of my rifles are Tikkas.
Okay.
Tikka T3 varmints. And then I've just got myself a Seiko. I've gone over to the dark side and went Seiko.
So if we basically, you're the same as me. I've always been a Tikka shooter. I think my 17 HMR is a CZ, because I think CZ just make the best 17, and my 22 is an old CZ as well, just because it just seemed they worked. But in terms of the full bore rifles, it's either it's Tikkas and Seikos. So GMK will be very happy that we're talking about Tikkas and Seikos, because I've just started doing a bit of work with GMK and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I can't fault them. And actually, I think, in terms of a rifle, it just works out the box, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, definitely. Like they say, don't they? That's what people say is Tikka is your poor man's Seiko, but I love my Tikkas. So I've got a Tikka T1X, which is a 17 HMR. Then I've got a 22-250, which is a T3 varmint, a 243, which is a light, which I don't actually get on with very well, and I use that for my guiding as my guiding rifle. And then I've got a 308 varmint, Tikka T3, and then
so you like that heavy barrel then.
I prefer a heavy barrel. Everyone thinks I'm a bit mad because obviously you're lugging a big rifle around, a heavy rifle around, but I just find it a lot more stable.
Yep. Yeah. You don't get the kick off it. You shoot the same as me. Everybody's like, why are you lugging that massive lump round the hill? It's like, because I know that if the guest knocks it or something like that, it's still going to be bang on. You shoot with it. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Yeah. Did you say your 243 was a lightweight barrel?
Yeah, 243 is a light, Tikka T3 light. I was basically listening to someone else, and I shouldn't have listened to someone else. And they said, you want to get a light because, you're out deer stalking, you want a light color, you want a light gun, you want this, you want that. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I do get on with it, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, because I think I'm used to such a heavier barreled gun and a heavier gun. When I do use it, it feels too light for me.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I've got a Seiko 75, and I wish it was a heavy barrel, but it isn't. It's a light barrel. It's a short barrel, so it's great for in woodlands and things like that. But again, I probably don't use it as much because it is a light barrel and it just sits there and kind of gathers dust at the end of the day. Yeah. But it's out now. It's all set up for different things. So it will probably see more use this year than it's ever seen.
Right. Nice.
Again, it's just one of those things. But yeah, the heavy barrel, I think people they're all worried about weight, but if you get used to carrying it, it really doesn't make a difference, does it?
Sling, haven't you? Put a sling, it's done.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So are you, the probably one of the last questions on that, are you factory ammunition, or do you reload your own? Do you have time to reload your own?
I don't reload. No, everything's factory. I think once you find every rifle's different, so I have all different makes for different rifles. So my 22 250 does really well with Normas or with Hornady bullets, but it's no good on Federals.
Right.
But then my 243 is good on Federals. So it's just one of those things. You just have to find the right bullet for the right gun.
Is that the Federal 100 grains for that in the 243?
Yeah.
So I was literally just on the phone before this, and I was chatting to that fella that's just started stalking, and he was saying that he's firing Federal 100 grains. Now my 243 hates 100 grain bullets. 95s and 70 grains, happy days. It shoots them beautifully. Put hundreds in it, and that used to be Hornady, and no, it just doesn't like them.
No, see, so I've just got myself with my Seiko S20 is a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay.
And that doesn't like 95 grain bullets. It only likes 100, and I think it's 129 grains is what it comes out the box, 130 grain bullets. It prefers that over the lightweight stuff, which I got it for obviously more of a lightweight ammunition, and it doesn't like it. But my mate who's got exactly the same gun fires perfectly through that, with that ammunition. So it's just one of those things.
It's bizarre. It's like how it came out of the factory. The day it was made, is it a Monday gun or is it a Friday gun? You've obviously got a Friday gun.
Yeah.
So are you forced, obviously with the deer stalking down there, are you all on copper or are you still on lead?
Still on lead at the moment. Still on lead at the moment. So some people are on copper, so I know Paul's on copper. What he uses copper, but at the moment I like my lead. I've never actually heard of somebody get ill from lead poisoning from a tiny bullet inside a deer carcass. How ridiculous is it? But it's one of those things we have to abide by it. And once it does come into force, then obviously everything will be copper. But for now, I'm okay.
Well, I don't know, will it? Because there's a lot of countries that went fully lead ban have reverted back to you putting lead, saying you have to use lead again because they realised that there was basically it wasn't humane on the animals.
It's not.
We've had problems on the hill this year with lead, with copper bullets, and 3 shots to take a stag down, and it's like, and that's a 308, and it's just like, that's not right. It used to be 1 shot and the stag was down, and you have to ask the question then at that point is like, are these actually man enough for the job? Well, that was the issue as well, wasn't it? With if the copper comes in and the 243 sort of gets pushed out, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely, because they couldn't find a copper bullet that would fit it, because I think the bullet had to be that much longer to get in there. And I think that's why Scotland dropped its requirement for minimum bullet weight, because you couldn't get in, for example, in a 243, you couldn't get 100 grain copper bullet. So they said, well, we'll go down to 70s.
They can change the law like that. Why change it to copper in the first place? But there you go.
Well, that's it. So when all your deer, I take it, go through Paul's larder then, or do they go off to different game dealers? So on Beckerins and all of like Childley Sporting, everything goes through Paul that way. And then sort of the deer that I take myself, I sort of normally like butcher it up myself and just sort of give it out to sort of friends and family and stuff like that. I always make sure it goes somewhere. Fantastic.
So I've actually got this year, so on the shoot days, because obviously for the beaters and the guns and that, we make sure that we feed everybody. So I took, how many did I get? I think I got 6 or 8 Chinese water deer and basically got them all put into burgers. So we've got something like 400 burgers or something to eat this season.
That's the way to do it. Feed your beaters, make sure everybody's happy.
Exactly.
If you've got happy beaters, they keep working for you. If you're miserable as a gamekeeper and don't feed them, you never see them again.
Well, as long as you feed them, you give them a bit of a tipple, they're happy.
That's it. It's normally they drink more than the guns at the end of the day. You do
Oh,
wonder how some of these old boys drive home.
Oh, honestly, I've had it before where we've stopped for 11s and we've done the next drive, and all the beaters, sometimes they struggle to do a straight line at the best of times, let alone after they've had a tipple. And honestly, I just sort of just put my hands in my head, and I just thought, oh no, what am I going to do? But it's just comical. It's just comical.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. And to be honest, you know what? Those are some of the best shoot days. As long as everybody's having fun, it's the most important part,
about the
isn't it?
atmosphere,
Really?
100%.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? That we find that when we go out shooting now, it's more about being out with your mates and having a good day. It doesn't matter if the bird wasn't particularly spectacular that came over. You shoot what you want to shoot, but as long as you've had a good day out of it,
that's
all
it.
it's about.
Yeah.
And I think that goes the same with the stalking as well. I think that's why after a while, when you've got access to shoot a lot, like we have, it's always nicer to take somebody else out and see them smile.
100%.
And basically you're sharing that experience, aren't you?
Mm.
So what's the future got in store for you? Is there anything in the pipeline? Are you planning on what's happening?
Nothing set in stone just yet, but I am hopefully planning to go up to Scotland.
Right.
Hopefully going to do something with ATN, and then obviously I've started a YouTube channel, so I'm going to do a bit of a video with that, and we're going to, depending on obviously the time of years and stuff like that, we're going to go after roe, seeker and reds, but it all depends on if it all fits in, and I haven't got shoot days that I've got to sort out, so hopefully we'll be able to do that, and then use some of the new ATN stuff as well.
That's cool, because obviously that's only recently changed up here with us, that you can now actually use a image intensifier, basically a digital scope. So that's probably what I think. There's a lot of the a lot of the old companies have just seen a massive door open to Scotland, because you can suddenly sell kit that you couldn't sell before.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun. We'll watch out for that, and we'll put a link up to your YouTube channel, and then people can start following and seeing what you get up to.
Well, definitely. Well, I had to start YouTube because Instagram was a bit biased against us, really, wasn't it? So we have to do something else.
I think well, that's another whole podcast in itself, isn't it? Really, but yeah, I think as a shooting community, we're struggling. Wherever we try and put ourselves out there now, there's somebody basically trying to stop you.
Yeah.
And I think you struggled on socials. I'm still in the naughty list. I have been since the stalking show.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I can't get off it. I've tried all my hacks and everything. I've tried changing it. Unless I go and delete a load of posts, I just seem to be well and truly in limbo with them at the minute.
Ridiculous.
Even though they want me, they keep saying to me, "Oh, if you pay your money, you can have a blue tick." It's like, yeah, but I can have my blue tick, but nobody can see my blue tick because you won't share my content. So I suppose it's just one of those tricky situations, isn't it? I think we'll just keep plodding on, but I suspect, unless some clever hunters out there that create a new sharing platform, I think we'll always be up against this.
Yeah.
So that's actually quite good, because obviously we've got the social side of it where we have our problems. Being down in England, do you have many issues with aunties and things like that turning up on shoot days?
You get a bit, but it's not. It all depends. Like I make sure I don't try to sort of publicise exactly where I am and what I'm doing to that extent, because there's always somebody that's going to have an issue with it. But I don't. Everybody gets antis. Everyone gets these issues. I think you get more issues on the grouse moors. We have more of an issue with poaching, I think, down our way.
Okay. Is that guys with dogs, or is that guys coming in with rifles and shooting?
It's mainly guys with dogs and catapulting and stuff like that.
Oh, is that quite bad? You get a lot of people coming in catapulting at pheasants?
Yeah, that, and obviously chasing the deer, running the deer with the dogs and stuff like that. You get bit of issues, but luckily, touch wood, we haven't had too much issues last season. So hopefully this season will be all right as well.
It is madness, isn't it? Really, it's we have a big problem up here with hare coursing. So it was they obviously they'll send the boys out from Aberdeen, and there's live betting, and now with modern technology and smartphones, and it's all literally being videoed, and there's huge amounts of money on it.
Yeah, they're after the hares. It's mainly deer and hares, really, I'd say. And then obviously, if you get people that have a bit of a thing at vendetta against you, then they'll have a few birds. But they like running their dogs.
It's just, do you get many problems with like random? Because obviously England and Scotland have different laws on where people can walk. In theory,
Corona, literally, as soon as Corona hit, everybody was walking everywhere. And I was like, I wouldn't walk in your back garden, so why are you in the middle of this wood? Honestly, it's a nightmare. People think we've got the right to roam. I was like, no, you don't have the right to roam. This is private property here. Go away. I always try and make sure that I'm, polite and well spoken to people. Unless they're rude towards me, then I can be rude. But I always make sure that, because you've got to always be cautious as well, especially because obviously we've got firearms and shotgun licenses and stuff like that. You've got to make sure you're never spoken or you never speak to somebody in a certain way, because all they need to do now is ring up the police, and next thing you know, you've got a knock on the door and all your guns are gone. It's that pathetic now.
Yep, 100%. And that's it. Again, we're in a minority here. We're always on our best behavior. And yet you've got the guys running the dogs. Nothing gets done about them. The dogs get confiscated and the car gets crushed. Next week they've got another set of dogs and another car, haven't they?
Yeah, that's it.
So it's them and us. And I think as long as we can keep doing what we're doing in the way we do it with and the education, and
it's all about education.
Yeah, and I think social media, I think people have got it. There are still people out there that post stuff that they probably shouldn't post. But as long as we keep trying to post positive stuff, like there's a good group of us that seem to do that. I think that's going to help the situation and make things go forward.
Yeah, because I heard it, or I saw an article or something the other day of somebody going back to, obviously you've got to be careful what you say. Somebody had a road rage incident, and then he basically had his guns taken away from him because someone shouted at him in the car, and then obviously reported him. And then you just think, how is that's nothing to do with anything, but yet, his guns are gone. And to try and get them back is so difficult. I'd hate to be in that situation.
Well, I think there's a big policy coming through that basically the police forces have been told that they have to get X number of guns in the UK reduced every year. I heard.
Right.
And so basically anything they can do to get rid of somebody off a ticket, they'll do. We've had numerous keepers up here. A friend of mine has just lost his guns over nothing really, but it's just one of those things. It's like, that's another keeper out of, if we get rid of him, it's like the Scottish government type of idea. That's another one gone. That's another estate going to struggle. And it's just one of those things. It's the same with renewals. It's the same with variations. They're dragging their heels so much. They hope you give up, I think, is the biggest thing.
And a lot of people are.
Yeah. There's a lot of the older generation are just going, do you know what? I don't want to deal with it, and I will just give up my guns. So well, we won't drag it on to too much on the downer. We'll try and finish it on a high. But I think we've probably reached quite a nice place to bring it to a close. So thank you ever so much for spending the time and coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. But we'll definitely catch up again in the future. We might see you in Scotland.
Yeah, and give us a shout when you're down here, and we'll get yourself a Chinese water deer.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
thanks again for listening to another episode of The Outdoor Gibbon. We are really appreciating everybody's support. It's great. If you can leave us a review either on iTunes, Spotify, or whatever platform you listen to us on, or even if you listen on YouTube, just leave us a review, like and subscribe. All of that does help with the algorithm and keeps us up in the charts. Anyway, our next guest will be somebody from across the Atlantic, so look forward to bringing you that in a couple of weeks. Speak to you soon.